love, joy, wonder, awareness, the opportunity for transformation. In our third dimension reality, time is a mechanism we use for learning, for discovery, and for preparing our souls for graduation back to God. For some of us, time plugs away at a slow, steady pace as our minds and our souls are shaped for the new realities that await us. While others see time as an unpredictable flow from one event to the next, with no telling what the next moment will bring us. Wouldn't it be great if we could see time the same way as the entity who created it? To see time as a series of moments of infinite possibility rather than a stream of one event flowing into the next. And what if we could discern those moments of infinite possibility and choose the one that will give us the greatest joy, the greatest realization of our potential, and the greatest service to ourselves and the rest of humanity? Welcome to Discerning the Time Temple.
Hello, and welcome to Discerning the Time Temple. My name is Bill G. And how we're going to be doing this today is a little bit different from other presentations. First, I'm going to take you for a quick tour through the charts themselves, and then we're going to focus on a particular case study, the case study of Caroline. I think it's important to note that the reason why we're using a fictional character, not a real character like Caroline, is because the process of the time temple manipulation or clearing is an extremely personal one. And if I used an actual case study of a client that I actually have, I would be revealing personally identifiable information about that person in order for this all to make sense in context, which is why I asked Spirit to provide me with an example that I could use for the purposes of this presentation. And Caroline came up. The name just popped in my head and came up with a backstory. And it's very possible that this is actually a living person that I'm working with here. I'm looking forward for you to get to know Caroline, as I got to learn a lot about Caroline and get to know her very well as well. The charts are a culmination of over a year's worth of research, where we took various disciplines and ideas from different places, and we, with the help of Spirit and our pendulum, we came up with some charts. We played around with it. We experimented with various with my clients and with other people, and eventually we came up with something that we felt worked very, very well. And I've been working with these charts now for about 8 months, 9 months, and we felt that it's now time to debut them because we think they're very important to share with the world right now. What we're going to first do is take you on a quick tour of the charts themselves, and then we're going to get into Caroline's story. I hope you enjoy. The first thing we're going to look at is the base chart. The base chart is basically the base where all of the other charts go on top of. The most important aspect of this is the colors. Now, the colors don't correspond to chakras. These colors correspond to various wavelengths or vibrations, and that's represented by the different numbers next to the colors. Violet, or the 4099 um, hertz or angstrom here, corresponds to a path that is laden with repeating karmic patterns. Whereas on the red, we're looking at a highest, most creative path, and then everything in between. So we're looking at various degrees here. And this helps us triangulate the highest path as well as the purpose behind the path that has been revealed to us by the pendulum. I have some other tools here that I just want to introduce. This is my pendulum. My pendulum is created by a group called Dominer in northern Italy. They specialize in creating tools to break the space-time barrier to allow for healing to take place on a more energetic level, which is why I've chosen this pendulum. Now, for your own purposes, if you have a pendulum that you are particularly attached to, or you have a pendulum that you feel will do the job, that's great. I just found that for doing this level of work, using a tool that is especially attuned to time is especially important. There's another pair of tools that I use here, both the Ankh and the Sword of Light. These were developed by Tom Leder. His website is seleniteswordmaker.com. These tools are energetic generators and tools for placing geometric shapes into the auric field once we've established what the program is for what we call the temporal clock activation. I use both of these tools for that purpose. If you have a tool that you prefer to use that is very good for inserting geometric shapes into auric fields, that's fine. But these are the tools that I use when I'm working with clients. The very first chart is the what we call the dominant life pattern chart. On this chart, we start with the highest form, and the highest form is what you are in the highest realms, in the non-physical, basically a life purpose, what was put into your soul purpose before you were born, so that way we get and understand what the mission is. The soul family are basically those people within your immediate soul family who are very important to you, and this will point out a particular character within your soul family who has been helping you along this path. The soul community is the larger community. And you see that there's some blank spots on here. And the reason why there's blank spots on here is, first of all, this has been arranged in a very similar to this pattern here, where we have temporal clock on one side and chronological clock on the other. And this is just sort of it's a mathematical thing. But also, more importantly, when we're looking for the highest path, it's not necessarily the case that in the highest path that you're going to have a highest form or a soul family or a soul community traveling with you. In that particular case, we need to do some additional clearing to make sure that we can adjust the path so that it is for the highest good. The dominant life path, and you see there's various different, what do you call careers on here, or be taken too literally. They are mostly just a direction and something that you're going to aspire to, or something that is repeated over many, many lifetimes. Now, we could say that you are a writer or an author, and you've never written anything in your life, and that could be your dominant life path. Well, that doesn't necessarily mean that's happened in this lifetime. It could have happened in many, many different lifetimes, or it could also be one of your highest forms, and it's something that you've always wanted to do or always thought you were really good at. Life got in the way and that sort of thing. And so we're going to open up the path, and we're going to open up the opportunity for you to really see and understand that. The looping drama path has to do with what are the things that you are repeating over and over again that are preventing you from seeing the highest path before you. And so here we're looking specifically at what state is your soul in right now, which is where we're going to look at the different soul planes. Where does this reside? The soul planes and the permanent atoms we received that from the research of Mikio Sankey, who's an esoteric acupuncturist who did a lot of research in this area. And we've incorporated in here the dramas are things that you are repeating, that's getting in your way. The frequency is how often this pattern repeats itself. Now, the pattern travels in a sine wave. So we can understand that at the top of the sine wave and at the bottom of the sine wave, the pattern is at its weakest. And so we can release it at that point. But in addition to that, we also not only want to know what the pathway is, but we also want to know what is the anchoring pathway, the anchoring looping drama. By clearing both the anchor and the actual thing itself, we have a very effective way of altering the timeline so that way you're not constantly repeating the same pattern that you've been repeating over and over again. This chart is the third chart, which is what we call the prescription for a better life, or the Dharma chart for short. Again, we're going to be looking at the soul planes, and we're going to also be looking at the frequency, but we add two other charts on here, which is the mantra seed sounds and a Dharma or practice that you need to be following in order again, the idea here is to open up the realm of possibility, to open up your the particular chakras that are being consistently blocked, so that way we can bring into awareness what you need to be doing in order to help you along your highest path. So we have here the soul plane that we need to be focusing on. We also have the mantra seed sounds, which correspond to the different chakras. And then we have a Dharma. A Dharma is a practice, something that you need to be doing on a conscious level in order to help you move forward. Frequency is how often it needs to be repeated. And again, we're going to be using the color chart to see what are we doing. Are we doing this for the purpose of clearing karma? Are we doing this for the purpose of moving us to the highest path? And what we do when I dowse for this is we're looking for both. We're looking for what do I need to raise my vibration, and also what do I need to release my karma. This last chart is the distortions and natural law. Okay, and now this is very steeped in the law of one, as communicated by Ra in the Ra books back in 1981. It's also loosely connected to the work of David Wilcock. And there's also the bad habits are from the Self-Realization Fellowship, which is the group associated with Paramahansa Yogananda. What we're looking here for is what is it that is preventing us from seeing. So this is all about sight. This is where is my soul working on its highest level in order to increase my awareness of the higher path, so that way I can clear the path before me, so that way I can have a better life experience. For this, we are looking at the distortions, and the distortions are connected to all of the various density levels of the law of one. Then we have the density designation and natural law, which is again associated with the law of one. The 11 Godhead plans. The 11 Godhead plans are pre-programmed conflicts within your soul record, which is the basis of drama that is occurring in your life. And then the bad habit. The bad habit is something that you do on a consistent basis, either consciously or subconsciously, that is, again, preventing you from bringing into your awareness the highest path that you need to be following in order to, and again, the focus is on this, is the raising of the vibration, because that's, in my opinion, the most important thing that all of us need to be doing right now. Is we need to be releasing karma, which we do on the previous chart, and then raising our vibration in order to experience the highest, most possible path that we can be following in preparation for ascension. And again, the colors are incorporated in that too, and you'll see that a little more in detail as we go into Caroline's case. So let's talk a little bit about Caroline. Caroline is a 39-year-old environmental scientist with a master's degree in geology and works for her state's Environmental Protection Agency. The primary thrust of her work is looking for ways to safely clean up chemical spills, underground tank storage, and that sort of thing. Lately, though, Caroline's been feeling a bit stuck in her life. She enjoys her job, but she feels like she could be doing something different. In her personal life, she just ended a 15-year marriage to a man who she met in college, but because his life involved extensive travel and that she suspected that he might be having an affair, she decided to end the marriage. She also has a 14-year-old daughter that she takes care of, and she has an unmarried older sister who takes care of her daughter when Caroline is at work. Caroline is thinking about dating again, but her daughter and her job keep her very, very busy. She's not quite sure if she wants to invest the time in a new relationship at this time. In her first session with me, what she's looking for is trying to figure out why she's feeling so stuck in her life, and is there something better that she could be doing. So let's take a look at her chart and see what comes up. So now let's take a look at Caroline's chart from the dominant life pattern perspective. So where we have on her chart is the highest form is forces of light. On the soul family level, we have sister being her most important person in her life. In the soul community level, we have ally. And then, interestingly enough, we have quantum physicist or temporal researcher being her most dominant life pattern. For the color, which is extremely important because that's going to tell us the rest of what we need to know, we have her at the color yellow 5710, which is not quite on the color yellow. It's more over here. 5710 is not quite the halfway point, but it's right about here. So this is where we're going to now adjust our chart in order to get that to match out. What does this tell us about Caroline? Forces of light, sister, ally, quantum researcher. First of all, what is the forces of light all about? Forces of light is she's here to assist humanity in this next transformational phase. She is the guru, the enlightened teacher, and by her very presence, others are more aware of the illusion of physical existence. A sister is basically just her physical sister. The soul community of an ally. These are people these can be neighbors, coworkers, or any type of relation that is of assistance to the person that you're doing the reading for. The dominant life pattern, the quantum researcher or the temporal researcher. This is the type of person who looks what can be beyond what can be observed and instead delves into what cannot be observed by using the scientific tools developed by others. Where physical and life sciences fail, you turn to sacred geometry and other theoretical mathematics in order to unlock the mysteries of time, space, and the nature of the soul. Now, as an environmental cleanup expert, she often has to deal with things that are unseen. In particular, chemical spills and that sort of thing that exist under the ground where no one can see them. But she has this ability to visualize and be able to clean these things up. Here is our interpretation of this portion of the chart. Caroline is a highly creative person with an analytical mind who is capable of understanding and applying complex concepts to a single task or problem. At her job, she is highly respected by her peers. She often feels like they place too much faith in her sometimes, and this tends to get overwhelming from time to time for her. Her entire life, Caroline has relied on her older sister for emotional support, and at work, Caroline actively seeks to surround herself with others who support her projects and causes so that she doesn't have to face these things alone. In her life and her career, she feels moderately successful. And we can see that being on this particular angstrom, that she is following a somewhat creative path. It's not a karma laden path. She actually is making progress for humanity's development. She has a fairly long list of successes where her work has made a real difference into the environment, although she does feel a certain level of futility and frustration, as for every site she is able to clean and restore, a dozen more are calling for her department's attention, and her limited government funds prevents her from doing the quality of work that she knows that she is capable of. Okay, so that's where her frustration is coming from. That's why she feels like she needs to be doing something different, because things are not going 100% where she wants it to be. Now, this is where it gets interesting. So, this is the current path that she's on. We want to understand the highest path, the most creative path. And for that, we have to turn to the red. And so we take this line here. So, in this line here, we have creator being, father, nothing in soul community, visual artist. What's that all about? So, first of all, creator being is a person who can manifest into reality all that she wants or all that she needs. Her charismatic power and ability to bend reality to the whims of your ego has the effect of either building up or breaking down the illusion. So, as a creator being, she actually has more power to understand stuff than she does at the QED researcher level. As a creator being, she actually has a superpower to actually change the reality of a situation just through her thought forms if she knows how to tap into it. Her soul family, her father. Now, this is interesting because it represents, in this particular case, her physical father, and we'll get into that when we get into her history a little bit. Nothing here, and then visual artists. So, a visual artist is somebody who expresses their creativity in the visual arts. This could be a painter or someone who draws or a photographer or something like that. Now, when I show this to Caroline, Caroline is at first very confused because she never really considered herself to be a competent visual artist. So this is confusing to her. And I assure her that, no, it's okay. Just hear me out on this thing because it's going to make sense in a minute. I encourage Caroline to look at it metaphorically. As a creator being, Caroline possesses an innate ability to manifest her vision into reality. She is a natural leader, as demonstrated by her ability to muster allies to her various causes at her job, but her tendency to hide behind those allies rather than push them forward is something that is starting to generate karma for her. She always related to her father more than her mother, as it was he who encouraged her to go to school and get her degree. He passed away, unfortunately, just after she finished graduate school, and Caroline feels that he would probably be a little disappointed in the kind of work that she's doing now, working for the government, rather than using her abilities to a more higher purpose, because he was more of a visionary. What we do next is we see the creative path, we see the current path, and now we're going to what we call activate the temporal clock in order to bring into conscious awareness what the higher path is, so that way her conscious mind can be aware of the synchronicities and neutral events that are going to help her understand what that is. And for that, we're going to be using this geometric shape. Now, I have a meditation that I use for this, and I also utilize the Ankh and the Sword of Light to put those ideas or those neutral events and synchronicities into the experiential part of her. And so that's what we do next. We go through a meditation and make that happen. We're now moving on to session number 2, where Caroline has come to me to kind of explore the next facet of the Time Temple charts. Before we begin, we catch up, see what has happened, see what has changed in her life up to this point. So, following the last session, Caroline reports that she had a very vivid dream where she quits her job and starts her own business, and her father is there cheering her on. Then the following day, at a meeting at work, her department informs her that there are even further budget cuts and that they're going to have to cease working on some cleanup operations from a large Superfund site that she's been working on. She's invested a lot of hours and coming up with a plan to clean up this site. And now they're telling her, no, we're going to scrap it. And instead, we're going to focus on some smaller jobs instead. This is very frustrating because Caroline has already invested a lot of time and planning into the cleanup. This happens to her from time to time, and it's one of the most frustrating aspects of her job. So for this session, she wants to know why her efforts are constantly being thwarted by her bosses and what she can do to change the rules of the game. So for that, we're going to move on to Time Temple chart number 2, which is our repeating dramas. Again, these are dramas that happen over and over again. Now we're going to try and figure out why they happen over and over again and what is holding all of that in place. Because again, we're looking at a sine wave here that we need to try and break in order to prevent this thing from happening over and over again. What we discover when we're doing our dowsing is that the soul plane is the atomic, the permanent atom that we're working with, active intelligence. And then we have the drama of separation. Separation's up here, right at the top. And then we have, it repeats itself every 8 months or so. So here are the months. So we're looking about right around here for that to happen. Color is violet, which is more in the 4120 realm. So it's right around here. And so we're going to now make our adjustments to the charts in order to understand where the anchor is located. The atmic plane is sometimes referred to as the parallel field, as the opening of the realm of all possibilities, otherwise known as fifth dimensional consciousness. When the atmic is in balance, we become aware of the multiple paths that are before us, as well as all possible outcomes of each decision that we make. As such, it becomes easier to choose the path of highest creativity for ourselves when the atmic plane is in perfect balance. When it is out of balance, we tend to feel locked into a singular set of cause and effect patterns where people and things affect us where we have no control over that. And it begins where when we're born, travels in a straight line until the day we die. When the atmic is in balance, then we have a perception of the endless possibilities and we can choose the right path for us. When it's out of balance, we feel locked into a singular chain of cause and effect. Active intelligence is one of those things where we are applying what we know in order to understand the possibilities that are before us. And then the drama of separation that other people affect, or other decisions that other people make affect what happens in our lives. It's kind of a helpless state here. So the interpretation for Caroline is as follows. Caroline is the type of person who can visualize the desired result of her work and then come up with a plan to make it happen. On projects where she is provided with the right resources, she is able to complete the job quickly and efficiently, and she's been able to confirm that in our session. Unfortunately, she tends to rely too heavily on others to provide her with the tools and resources that she needs, and she tends to take it personally when she fails to deliver on any promises that she makes because of other people. This has created a pattern where she feels both judgmental and judged at the same time by her superiors. Because when we're looking here at this violet ray here, shows that this has been a repeating pattern over many, many lifetimes, where she has given up her personal power to others and allowed them to dictate where she's going to be successful and where she's not going to be successful. So this is something that she feels is completely outside of her control, when nothing could be further from the truth. The drama repeats itself about every 8 months, which is about the time it takes for Caroline to invest a great number of resources into a given project, just to have the rug pulled out from under her before any real progress can be seen. Clearing it alone is not going to be enough. We need to break out the big guns on this. This recurring drama has also presented itself in her personal life, because with her failed marriage, her ex-husband Joseph was the type of person who would ask Caroline to make elaborate plans for vacations, anniversaries, or birthdays, but due to last-minute work obligations, he would then either ask her to scale back or cancel those plans altogether. This caused a great deal of pent-up resentment in Caroline, and is one of the reasons why she ended the marriage, even though she did not realize it at the time. Locking it into place goes over here to this level, the astral plane. The permanent atom is the mental unit. The drama is child abuse. And this frequency, what is happening every about 12 hours or so. So what's the interpretation here? What is anchoring the looping drama in this experiential plane is Caroline's sense of disconnection to her own emotional state when things recur in her life. So she tends to disconnect when things go wrong in her life. This is due to a repeated childhood trauma. When she was forced to go along to get along, this block not only allowed Caroline to simply fall in line with whatever her ex-husband wanted to do, despite how many times he would change his mind to allow his work to take precedence over whatever she had planned, but it also allowed Caroline's bosses to simply roll over her hard work whenever political winds would change and whatever budget priorities would come up. All of this created a strong block within the mental unit, which is the source of creative solutions gathered from the collective unconsciousness. When we activate the temporal clock in this particular case, what we're going to focus on is both the anchoring drama and the primary drama, and to set up a temporal condition within the chronological clock where Caroline can take back her personal power so that she can follow through with her plans rather than allowing herself to be blocked by others. This particular temporal clock activation was extremely powerful for Caroline. Now we're moving on to session number 3. When she comes to me today, what she wants to work on is finding a way to maintain her connection to her creative power so that she can apply it both to her professional and her personal life, and then she can keep moving it in the right direction. And so she doesn't keep attracting the same failed relationships and failed situations into her life. And so for that, we're going to turn to chart number 3. So now we are here at chart number 3, which is prescription for a better life. So again, here we have the soul planes. We've replaced the permanent atoms with the mantra seed sounds, and we replaced the dramas with the dharmas. The rest of the chart is essentially the same. So what we're doing here is we're trying to find a lesson or practice that she can put into her life to help her manifest that better life that she's looking for. For her, we're returning to the Atmic, which is what came up in her original drama. We have seed sound of Lam, which is associated with the first or root chakra. Then we have the Dharma of honesty, and then the frequency is applied to the entire life, which is going to be in the years. When years come up, I ask, are we applying it for the entire lifetime, or are we just simply applying it for a certain number of years, or some repeated every few years? In this particular case, it went to, we're going to apply this within the entire lifetime. And the color is turquoise 4890, which is right about here, which is okay. So now let us adjust our chart accordingly. Astral, Lam, honesty years. And again, we're also looking at the root dharma, and the root dharma is logoic, om, reason, and what it indicated is we are going to activate this every hour in the past, in the present, and in the future as well. There's a good reason why the atmic plane is indicated here again on this chart. The reason is that we have now cleared the associated dramas of connecting that's preventing Caroline from truly manifesting in the life that she wants. It is now time for her to start exercising that muscle so that she can really experience the magic of what it means to be a master of creation itself. The way to do this is to activate the root chakra and her connection to the earth energies and to practice the dharma of honesty. Now, the anchoring dharma goes to Buddhic Om reason every hour, or the dharma that will open up Caroline to the infinite possibilities before her lies within the domain of the heart, which is the Buddhic plane. This practice will open her heart through the love-light connection of the fourth dimensional space. The connection of the infinite is facilitated through her own crown chakra and the activation of the Om seed sound. Once the connection is established, Caroline is then able to embrace the Dharma of reason, where she releases all of her fear that others will manipulate what she creates for their own purposes. By embracing this Dharma, she will be able to approach both her professional and personal life from a place of emotional detachment so that she may recognize those small moments where she can act in her highest good. Caroline's homework is to practice activating both her root and crowned chakras. She can then choose any method that works for her, but the focus is to nourish and strengthen those energy centers every day so that they may be in balance and be strong on their own. Now it is time with the fourth session. Now we've already determined a positive life path for her. We've already helped clear out her looping dramas, and we've also provided her with a dharma path to allow her to manifest that destiny that she really wants to embrace in her life. Before we begin, Caroline tells me what's been going on. So she reports that several things in her life are starting to change. She recently learned about an environmental nonprofit organization that's looking for a director with her specific skills to lead various cleanup projects using lawsuit settlement money and donations rather than relying on taxpayer funds. This would be an enormous opportunity for her to do the kind of work that she really wants to do and not be subject to the wills and whims of the political tides. So this would be a good move for her. In her personal life, she went on a couple dates and things seem to be progressing pretty well so far. On top of that, her daughter and sister and mother are treating her with more respect. So when she comes to me today, she wants to continue, but she feels confused about how she can keep this going. She's got a good momentum going, but she wants to be able to keep it going and perhaps make it even stronger going forward. She also wants to do more in the world, but she's not quite sure what she can do to help. And so for that, we're going to turn to Time Temple Chart number 4. As we stated earlier, Time Temple Chart 4 is all about distortions in relation to the application of the Law of One. For those of you who don't know what the Law of One is, the Law of One was communicated by an entity known as Ra to some people in 1981, and they recorded all of the sessions and wrote it in a series of 4 books. You can now get those books called Communications, the Ra Communications. They were republished in 2016. You can get them on audio. Again, like I said before, we're looking at the distortions, the density designation, the Godhead plans, the bad habits, and again, we're going to be using the color wheel here to indicate what's the purpose here. Are we clearing karma, or are we following our highest creative path? So for Caroline, What we are looking for here is awareness, first density, which is the law of confusion. We're also looking at the awareness versus ignorance Godhead plan, sense slavery, and the color frequency turquoise 4908. So we're looking at right about there. Now we've got our line sent here. Awareness actually is paired with the first density. So what we're not looking at any cross density distortions here. We're looking at a single distortion through the first density, which is the red ray, the Godhead plan of awareness versus ignorance, the bad habit of sense slavery. And then with the color being turquoise of that angstrom, we can make the assumption here that this is related to more looping timelines and the accumulation of a fair amount of karma. The anchoring distortion, again, we always go back to the anchor, and the anchor exists on the red angstrom. Here we have completion, the law of foreverness, the seventh density, transformation versus stagnation, and the bad habit of bigotry. The law of foreverness and completion are also paired together. Caroline's high self is very close to understanding the entire cycle of creation and is almost ready to graduate to a complete light body through service to the one infinite creator. Once there, the realms of infinite possibility will be open to her, and she will not only recognize the synchronicities working to improve her life, she will be able to manifest new opportunities by thought alone. Unfortunately, she has within her soul plan an inherent mistrust of the motivations and actions of others based on biases and stereotypes rather than the ability to see all souls as one soul, which is part of the infinite creator. Again, we're going to activate the temporal clock to bring into her conscious awareness of the whole of creation and the activation of the light body to awareness of the infinite possibilities, including her perception that time exists within a single moment. After a full activation of the time temple, Caroline is now free to do things that she may not have even imagined possible before. She manifested that opportunity of the new job and the new opportunity. And also, her personal life is also starting to turn around. She's starting to date again. She's starting to trust again, not only herself, but she's able to reach out and understand that everyone is part of the one infinite creator, and she is part of them. That creates a tremendous amount of freedom in her ability to manifest the life that she truly wants, and getting rid of those old patterns, those old dramas that were keeping her firmly rooted in that life and death, third density awareness. What's also going to result by her really taking this seriously and doing her homework and keeping up with the mantras and the activations and all of that stuff is going to allow her to um, realize her life in a whole new level. I've been successful working with other clients like Caroline, manifest new things. Now, this isn't always an easy process, and that's why we have other tools besides the time temple charts to allow us to identify and bring into conscious awareness other soul programs, other blocks, other soul contracts, and clear those out as well. But then we go back to the time temple charts to find new pathways, because this is not the only one. Yes, we've focused on Caroline's her professional and her personal life, but there's a whole other realm here of her relationship with her daughter, the relationship with her sister or parents, that we can also explore and also create the situation to have a better life experience. I hope you have enjoyed this presentation, and I hope that it has piqued your curiosity enough that you either want to learn this technique for yourself or you would like to contact me for an individualized session to help unlock the time temple for yourself. The workshops I will be announcing through my website. Everyone who participates in the workshop will receive their own set of the professionally printed charts with the base chart, the spindle, and they're all printed on durable PVC that will last a lifetime. And also, you'll also get an instruction book along with a personal coaching by myself. Thank you very much for attending. I hope you have found this useful, and I look forward to answering your questions and contacting you personally. Thank you.